so fresh, looking so fresh. When I walk by, breaking their necks. Waiting in line at the team store. Now I'm feeling fly like a condor. Eyes on me when I walk through the door. Man, I wish I bought a couple more. Cause I really love my city. It was worth every penny. If it were at my show, then I know they gon' tip me. Think I might add a couple patches. If you think it's ugly, you capping. Now my whole outfit matching. Never going out of fashion.
What's up, everybody? Welcome, episode 643, Talking Friars podcast and YouTube show. Ben Fadden here. It's October 4th, 2024, the day before the Padres and the Dodgers NLDS get started in LA at Dodger Stadium. Cannot wait for this. Just a preview episode. We're going to talk about some of the pitching matchups that are expected coming up. Maybe the Padres starting rotation plan. We don't have any latest information right now on Joe Musgrove. There's no update, I should say, as of this recording. Obviously, he walked off the field in Game 3 against the Braves, and he was dealing with the elbow tightness, and he had been dealing with that for weeks leading up to it. Like, he hadn't been feeling too good, and he wanted to fight through that, and I respect him for that. But now the Padres, they may be without Joe Musgrove, probably will be without Joe Musgrove for the NLDS. And then, NLCS, we'll see what happens there if the Padres are fortunate enough to end up getting there and they earn their way there. But yeah, this Dodgers team, should we start with the Dodgers? Let's start with the Dodgers side of this. So they just switched their starting pitchers. They were going to go with Flaherty game 1, but now they're going to be going with Flaherty game 2, and they're going to go with Yamamoto in game 1. And if you remember, the Padres, they've done pretty darn well off of Yamamoto. They smacked him in Korea. Now, I don't even know if we should bring that up. I mean, I will, because that was a great game to watch, right? Yama Meatballs. That's where I think the nickname really started for Padres fans, because he got smoked off of there. But that was such a long time ago that we should probably disregard that if we're just trying to be as, realistic as possible. That was just he's probably a different guy, a different pitcher, so many more experiences pitching in big games. He pitched at Yankee Stadium earlier this year. So we should probably disregard that. I mean, there's different players on this Padres roster, right? Some pretty key guys. And that was before we knew the year that Jackson Merrill was going to have. That was before we knew the year that Jurickson Profar was going to have. That was before Luis Arraez and Donovan Solano and David Peralta. There's just different guys on this team. So we'll see what Yamamoto the Padres do get in game 1 tomorrow. By the way, the start times for these games. So Saturday, we already know the start times for games 1 and game 2. Game 1, 5:38. It'll be Yamamoto against Dylan Cease. That's going to be on FS1. Sunday, game 2 is going to be at 5:03 p.m. Pacific time. Darvish for the Padres, Flaherty for the Dodgers. That one is going to be on FS1 as well. Monday, day off. Tuesday will be game 3. That's going to be at Petco. Don't know what time, but I assume it's going to be in that same window. Or maybe what they do is they want Phillies-Mets to be in prime time, so maybe that's going to be a 4 o'clock start around that, and then they could go Padres-Dodgers at 7 or at 6:30, something like that. But we'll see. Wednesday, that would be at Petco. That's if necessary, obviously, game 4. Obviously, the last time these two teams matched up in the division series in 2022, the Padres, they were able to split the 2 games against the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium, and then they won game 3 at Petco, Grish with that big homer. And then they had game 4, obviously, where there was the comeback and the Crony hit and the big rally. The Musgrove start, the bullpen comes in, Hader, embarrasses Mookie Betts up there and Freddie Freeman, and the Padres, I think Trey Turner as well. I mean, the big 3 right there got them all to end up winning that, and that was his best moment with the Padres, and it kind of went downhill from there. But that's obviously in the past. So Wednesday would be a possible game 4. That we don't know what channel, Fox or FS1. Tuesday, same thing, Fox or FS1. Thursday would be a day off, and then Friday would be a game 5, winner take all if necessary, which very well could happen. I mean, this is a close matchup. I give the edge to the Padres, but this is a close matchup. That one would be Friday, October 11th. That would be at Dodger Stadium. And that'll be the same. The Mets and Phillies, that also would be game 5 if necessary. And these are two interesting series. I mean, if we want to hit on the Mets Phillies for a minute here, that's what I love about this is it's two series where there's regional rivalries, right? Padres Dodgers, how close that is, and the fan bases, and then Mets Phillies. Is this the first time they've met in the playoffs? I don't know, but if it's been a while if they have. They're close, obviously. Those fan bases probably don't like each other. Obviously, New York and Philly. So it's going to be really entertaining. I give the Phillies the edge in that Mets matchup. I like their pitching. I really like the Phillies offense. The bullpen, I'm not going to act like I know a ton about their bullpen. Edwin Diaz, you can get to. And what we probably should be doing is pulling for the Mets if we're Padres fans, because if we get past the Dodgers and the Mets beat the Phillies, then the Padres get home field. That's the only team that they get home field against in this championship series. Obviously, they wouldn't get it over the Phillies. Remember not last year, sorry. What was that, 2 years ago? The Padres were able to get the home field because the Phillies, I believe, were a lower seed than the Padres were. So that could happen here again. We'll see. There was something wild that I saw on social media. Like every team the Brewers got beat by in the postseason ended up going to the World Series. I may have that wrong. Maybe it's the championship series, but I think it's the World Series. So the Mets could be that team of destiny. They're going to have momentum. I'm not the biggest believer in momentum, to be honest. It's baseball. Who's your next day's starting pitcher? Like, that's what I want to know. Who is healthy on your team? It's great to have a series like the Padres or the Mets. I mean, with Pete Alonso and that late home run, holy cow. It looked like they were done. And then they get a couple runners on, and it seemed like Devin Williams was tipping his pitches a little bit, and Pete Alonso gets that changeup and goes oppo. So, that's a signature Pete Alonso moment that will always be remembered in Mets history, obviously. Jesse Winker, my goodness, that guy. It's just hilarious to me that he actually got mad at Jerks and Profar earlier this year when Profar was celebrating winning a home game with a packed crowd, and it was a walk-off. And it was personal because you walked the guy in front of him to get to him. And you think that he's not going to celebrate? Come on. Jesse Winker wasn't even a go-ahead run at that time for the Mets. He just scored in an extra run, an insurance run, and he slams his helmet down as if he was going to get ejected, like he was pissed off at a strike 3 call or something. It was a weird way to celebrate. But yeah, I guess we should want to see the Mets, but that means we're going to have to see Jesse Winker. And I'm a little tired of Jesse Winker. But that should be a very interesting series. But Padres, Dodgers, getting back to that, Joe Davis and John Smoltz, they're going to be on the call. I think Ken Rosenthal is probably going to be the lead sideline reporter there. And for all those that don't want Joe Davis on the call, me included, of course, we'd love to hear Don and Mud, but at least we get Jesse and Tony. Joe Davis, to be honest, I think he's been pretty good at being unbiased. Now, once the Dodgers do something in this division series, it's going to sound like, oh, there's the homerism. But if you remember, even on the Dodger broadcast, that triple play call, I thought he was actually pretty good when the Padres turned that triple play to clinch the playoff spot. I thought that was pretty good. Maybe some remember the Bryce Harper homer in the playoffs and, biggest swing of Harper's life or whatever, which was accurate. Maybe some thought, or they just remember that moment and they're like, ooh, don't like Joe Davis. Maybe for some, it's always the Dodger announcer, so I immediately don't like him. I'm not saying I like Joe Davis. I'm just not saying that I absolutely hate him on the call. He's just, for me, I think Woodsy put it well on Ben and Woods this morning. I just think he's a vanilla announcer. I don't think he's that entertaining of an announcer. Just that broadcast booth doesn't do a whole lot for me. I'll say that. They just don't. The TBS side, on the AL side, I think the A crew is Brian Anderson and Ron Darling. And I think Jeff Rancourt might be that third guy there. I'm a fan of that booth. I think a great booth. Don's not even doing any postseason games because for TBS, they have Brian Anderson as the play-by-play for the, I assume the Yankees series, or maybe he's doing Cleveland, but they're doing Bob Costas for the other. And so Costas trumps Don Orsillo, and Don's probably like, yeah, he deserves it. But it's just weird to me that Don Orsillo, who does national stuff for Fox during the season, and I think he's one of the best broadcasters in baseball, for him not to be doing a postseason series, that doesn't sound right to me. But at least he's going to be able to enjoy Padres Dodgers, be able to watch all the games, be at Petco with Mud. They show them. I think that's a great thing that the Padres do, showing Don and Mud on the Jumbotron during those games. You get the crowd going when you see those guys. And they've got Mud has LFGSD on his phone, so it gets the crowd going for sure. But getting back to the matchup itself here. So Yamamoto game 1 for the Dodgers. He may, hang some breaking balls, which he's done against the Padres. Manny Machado has a homer off of him. Ha-Seong Kim does, although he's not going to be playing. Correa, again, I feel like we should throw that out if we're going to be honest with ourselves, but he was getting hammered in that outing, and this is going to be his first postseason game. So is he going to shrink in the moment? Is he going to get rattled? Is he not going to want to make mistakes, and so he's going to throw pitches over the plate because he doesn't want to walk guys? I'm going to be interested there. And Jack Flaherty in game 2, I did hear on Ben and Woods this morning about Flaherty making mechanical changes. And if that's the case, if he's worried about mechanics on the mound, if that's even in the back of his mind at all, like the Padres could have the advantage there. And Jack Flaherty, he's not someone that I think is like scary to the Padres. Let's see, how many times did he face the Padres this year? So his last outing against the Padres, September 25th, he went 5 innings, gave up 3 earned runs, and he gave up a homer. I want to say that was Nando that hit the homer off of him. But yeah, that was the one outing that he had against the Padres this year because he was not with the Padres. He was with the Detroit Tigers, and the Padres didn't play the Tigers while Flaherty was on the mound in any of those games. Let's see, who had that homer? Yeah, it was Tatis. In the 5th inning, Tatis' 21st homer of the year. And the other ways that the Padres scored in that game, Bogarts in the 2nd had that RBI single. Croney had the sacrifice ground out, made it 2-1. Nando with the homer tied it up 3-3. That was the game. That was the 2nd game of that Padre Dodgers series where the Dodgers ended up winning that game 4-3. And yeah. So Flaherty's gettable. And this Dodgers bullpen, they've got some arms there. Michael Kopech is one of those where he goes over to the Dodgers and he is living up to the potential that I think the White Sox thought they could get out of him. But he's doing that really well with the Dodgers, so that's a good arm. They have Evan Phillips, Daniel Hudson, Blake Trinan. Remember, Jackson Merrill hit a big homer in the regular season at Petco against Blake Trinan. I want to say that was to tie the game there in that 9th inning. It was late in the game. That got Petco rocking, so let's remember that if Trinan ever comes into a game. Now, Alex Vesia, that's an interesting one because he does really good against pretty much every other team other than the Padres, and we want Croney up when Alex Vesia is on the mound. If you're Alex Vesia, in your mind, you can't, I mean, maybe he's doing this to try to like distract himself, but I'm sorry. If Jake Cronenworth comes up and you're facing him in a postseason game, you know what he did to you in game, like that has to haunt you like for the rest of your life unless you go help the Dodgers win a World Series with what Croney did there. So I think the Padres have the mental upper hand on Alex Vesia. Joe Kelly, he actually has pitched pretty well against the Padres. They have Anthony Banda, Ryan Brazier, Henriquez is that young guy who throws like 100. Brusdar Graterol, it says he's on the IL, but I wonder if he's going to end up being in that bullpen. Brent Honeywell, it says he's on the IL. We'll see with him. They've got some good arms. And with those arms, I feel like these Dodgers starters are going to be on a pretty short leash. And remember, Dave Roberts in postseason games, this is what he does, right? Where you have a couple base runners on in the 5th inning and you're out, or maybe even in the 4th inning. If the Padres can take game 1 with Cease on the mound, if you're the Dodgers, you can't go down 0-2. You're not winning that series. So then, I mean, game 2, that could be really interesting. Jack Flaherty, he doesn't have a great, I mean, remember, we just saw this with the Braves with Max Fried. He gives up a bunch of runs there in that 1 second inning, and he's gone. He didn't have a long outing. Even though his outings before that, he went, 7 innings. I think he went 8 2/3 going into that outing, his last outing against Kansas City. So really throw out what you did to end that regular season. It's about that matchup. It's about how you're doing in that game. It's about the serious situation. If you're down 0-1, you don't want to get down 0-2. The Dodgers almost have to treat game 2 as if it's, okay, if we lose this game, it's over, even though it's not, technically. But you go down 0-2, and this same thing for the Padres. Go down 0-2, even though the Padres, I believe in them, and they've got the depth, they've got talent. If they go down 0-2, let's say it is Cease pitching game 2, you have Michael King for game 3, where the Dodgers, they would have, I think, Walker Buehler for game 3, and the Padres can get to him. And then game 4, I think it's Landon Knack, who is projected to be starting there. So it's going to be really important for the Dodgers to at least split this series. They probably want to get both, obviously, because they're playing at home. But if we're the Padres here, yeah, split this. Same thing as 2022. Split this first 2 at Dodger Stadium at least. But I'm confident in this Padres lineup that they can get to Yamamoto. They can get to Flaherty. We know that they can put a big swing on one of those guys. And then if your pitching is locked in, we know that Dylan Cease can be locked in. We know that Darvish can be. We've seen it this year. It is going to be interesting to see how Darvish goes, though, in game 2. But I'll get to the Padres here in a second. But, yeah, that's on the pitching side with the Dodgers. I'm very interested in seeing how Dave Roberts is going to approach this. Again, especially if they get down 0-1, and maybe even in game 1. What is he going to do if Yamamoto struggles there out of the gate? Because going down 0-1, you still don't want to do that. So we'll see. Remember, I think it was 2022 Dodgers won game 1, but it was a different situation. Padres didn't have Dylan Cease on the mound. They had Clevenger. We were not expecting to win game 1 going into that. Here, I think it's evenly matched. If not, the Padres have an edge even over Yamamoto and the Dodgers for game 1. I mean, we saw what happened when they've had the time off. Dodgers didn't win a postseason game last year against the D-backs. And they haven't won a postseason game since game 1 against the Padres in 2022. So that leads me into the Dodgers offense, which has question marks as well going into this. And obviously, we know the 3 MVPs at the top with Mookie and Shohei and Freddie, but there's a question mark there, a couple actually. You could say a few, but I feel like Shohei's going to show up. Mookie Betts, he has done nothing for the Dodgers in the postseason for the last couple of years, really, right? Definitely last year. Him and Freddie Freeman came up incredibly small. I think he went over. I think Freddie maybe got 1 hit in that division series against Arizona in those 3 games. And Freddie, so Mookie, he needs to, figure it out. We don't want him to, but for the Dodgers' sake, needs to figure it out. And then with Freddie, he is dealing with the ankle sprain or ankle injury. Remember at Dodger Stadium when the Padres played him, it did not look good. He ran past first and landed really badly. I think it was on that right ankle. They showed the replay. It was not nice, not pretty. So yesterday, and I'm recording this here on the morning of October 4th, here Friday morning here. Yesterday in the workout that the Dodgers had, Freddie was not at first base. He was taking at bats in their sim game, but he was not at first base. Maybe this was because, hey, let's be precautious. Freddie, you know how to play first base. You don't need the reps there. In case you're not going to be ready, let's get Max Muncy as many reps as we need, or as many reps as he needs to be ready to go at first base. And if he's at first and Freddie can't play, they can't put him at DH. Shohei's DHing. So he wouldn't be starting in the lineup. And they'd have Kike Hernandez go play third, is what I think would happen there. So we'll see. But if I'm Freddie Freeman, yeah, my ankle probably isn't feeling too good still, but this is the postseason. I came here to help my team win the World Series, and this is Padres Dodgers. You know, if you're Freddie Freeman, you do not want the Padres to be able to beat you again for the second time in 3 years. They just won the season series against you. You don't want the Padres to beat you for the second time in 3 years in the postseason in the division series, right? That would be embarrassing to him and the Dodgers, right? So I'm thinking Freddie's going to play tomorrow, but I think, you know, he is going to be a big X factor, one of the X factors for sure for the Dodgers. Let's go through a few X factors for the Dodgers just right now, and then we'll get to the Padres side, obviously. For me, the biggest X factor for the Dodgers is Freddie Freeman because of that injury situation. Like Shohei, I feel like he's going to show up. We saw what he did in the WBC. I know that's not MLB, but that's a big spot there. I feel like he's going to show up, and he's the most talented player on the earth. Like the Padres, we'll see how they attack them, or attack Shohei. I think you're going to see a lot of Tanner Scott and Adrian Morejon late in games against Shohei to try to get him out there. If there's an open base, probably going to put him on base. Wouldn't be surprised to see that. It's not a regular season game where you're like, F it, let's pitch to him. I mean, you got to be. Shohei's gotten the Padres that last series, if I remember correctly. He did get the Padres a couple of times there. My other X factors, other than, you know, Shohei obviously is an X factor. First postseason, he's their best player. What's going to happen there? Freddie, like I said, my biggest X factor with the injury. And Shohei, there's going to be some times where they're not going to pitch to Shohei, and they'd rather pitch to Freddie over Shohei. Mookie obviously is another X factor, but if I'm going to go someone that's not one of those big guys, for me, the X factor on the pitching side is probably Jack Flaherty, because he's kind of that swing guy for them in that rotation. Yamamoto in game one, if they win game one, okay. If Flaherty can knock it down in game two, we're going to be in trouble. If the Dodgers lose game one, well, your season's on the line in game two. If Flaherty sucks it up and the Padres, we can go take that. I would assume that we're not going to lose 3 straight games. That's a big start there for Jack Flaherty. So I'd pick Flaherty on the pitching side for the Dodgers. So those are my X factors there. And the Dodgers, you know, there's other guys that I could point to that would be X factor. You know, Dave Roberts, I think. I know he's not a player, but that's an X factor. How antsy is he going to get if the Padres get in a situation where they've got multiple runners on in the 4th inning of a tie game or the 5th inning of a tie game, or the Dodgers get down? Is he going to immediately go to the bullpen? How fast is someone going to get up in that bullpen? I wonder. I really do wonder. We'll see. I give the Padres the advantage with the manager, with Mike Shildt over Dave Roberts. I think Dodger fans would probably say, yeah, Mike Shildt over Dave Roberts. Maybe that's just me, but maybe Dodgers fans there are going to be Dodger fans watching or listening to this, because they're always here when the Padres are playing the Dodgers. Even when the Padres aren't playing the Dodgers, there's some that come in here, which I think is pretty weird. But hey, thank you. Thank you for the views. Going to the Padres side of this, obviously, we know that Dylan Cease is going game one. Yu Darvish expected to go in game two. And Darvish, he hasn't had, if I remember correctly, he hasn't had the best numbers against the Dodgers. Early in the season, I think we should throw it out. But against the Dodgers, March 20th, he didn't give up any runs in those 3 2/3 innings. He gave up 3 earned runs, 5 innings of work on April 14th at Dodger Stadium. He did give up a homer there. And then he did not face them the rest of the season. But some of the big outings that he's had against the Astros, September 16th, 6 innings, no runs, gave up just 3 hits. His last outing was against the D-backs. He went 5 1/3, gave up 3 earned runs. But remember, he had a not so great start to the outing, but then was really good the rest of the outing. And he ended up only going 80 pitches, but I think that was because the Padres, they didn't want to extend him. They were in a good situation. So let's just go to the bullpen. And we could very well see that because remember, the Padres, I think they're in a good spot with where they have Darvish pitching. They have him pitching in game 2, so go use the bullpen. Darvish may have a short leash in game 2. Go use the depth in that bullpen. There's a day off before you go to Michael King in game 3. So let's remember that going into game 2, especially if Dylan Cease can go 6 plus innings tomorrow in game 1. May only have to use your high leverage guys. And I'm talking about like just Scott, Adams, Suarez, not even Estrada, not even Morahone. I'm just talking about the big 3 right there. If Dylan Cease can be really good tomorrow, we'll see what happens there. That could be a good spot to have Darvish in game 2. And Dylan Cease, he has a 3.47 ERA this season, obviously. And it was such a luxury. I said this the other day, such a luxury to have Dylan Cease be pitching game 1 here because you win so big that they won in 2 games against the Braves. Obviously, it sucks with the whole Musgrove injury, but man, to have Cease pitch game 1, it feels like a level playing field in the first 2 games of this series instead of having to throw someone like Martin Perez or in game 2 and you have Darvish game 1 or Perez game 1 and Darvish game 2, whatever they were going to go with. The Padres, they're in a good spot pitching-wise. Again, like talking about the beginning of this series, his last outing was against the Dodgers. He did only go 5 innings. He gave up 3 earned runs. He didn't give up any homers, struck out 4, but the walks did get to him, 97 pitches. He did walk 3 guys in that outing. And just as a refresher of what happened there in that outing, there was the RBI single by Teoscar Hernandez in the first inning. There was the RBI single by Gavin Lux that brought in the Dodgers' second run of the game. And then Shohei had the double. Remember, he walked Miguel Rojas, the 9-hitter, before Shohei came up, and that's obviously a no-no, and that ended up being an issue there. And then he was out of the game when Shohei had that single in the 6th inning. I think that was Estrada or maybe it was Morahone. I forget who it was that gave up that single to Shohei. But so the Dodgers, they can get to they can get to Dylan Cease. But for me, the big key going into that one is, okay, limit the free passes. Be smart, but limit the free passes. Go attack those guys. If they get you, they get you. But have faith that Padres lineup can put together a rally against someone in the bullpen, against Yamamoto. Have faith in that and go attack. Michael King, I think this will be big if the Padres can get an early lead. So similar to Michael King in game 1 of that wild card series, he went to Higgy and said, no, let's just attack this. They were going to go with different pitches, but they said, no, let's just attack because we have this lead. If we give it up, okay, but we have a lead. Let's use that to our advantage. Go attack these guys and make them beat you. Don't give them anything. If they beat you, they beat you. So I want Dylan Cease to attack tomorrow. Is he going to give up a home run? He might, but I'd rather go down attacking than right out of the gate being cautious and nibbling, right? So those are my thoughts there on the first 2 guys, Dylan Cease and Yu Darvish. For game 3, it would probably be Michael King. For game 3 for the Dodgers, it would probably be Walker Buehler. Game 4, Landon Knack. They could go with or how many days rest would that be for game 3 if they want? They wouldn't go Yamamoto. Probably be Landon Knack, yeah, and then short leash there. And then Martin Perez, maybe game 4 for the Padres. We'll see there. Dylan Cease, so game 4 would be Wednesday. So Cease would have 1, 2, 3. He'd be on 3 days rest. That might be pushing it there. So they might go Perez, and then hopefully you got a good start from King and you have some fresh guys in that bullpen. So we'll see, but that's down the line, obviously. Padres bullpen, I do got to give credit to Robert Suarez. These 2 games against the Braves, it wasn't always the prettiest. It's not like he was blowing guys away, but he was able to get the job done. That last out on the pop-up to Higgy, got the fastball in, jammed d'Arnaud, and that was that. Yes, he did give that hard contact to Jorge Soler, but that pitch was down out of the zone, and Soler, just with the power that he has, was able to get it almost out of the ballpark. And Merrill made a good play. I shouldn't say good play because he went in on the ball initially, but good reaction to the bad first step and having to go back with the athleticism. I'll frame it that way. Yeah, this bullpen, Tanner Scott, I love that matchup against Shohei Ohtani. I will take that matchup against Freddie Freeman. Max Muncy, same thing. I wonder, when are the Padres going to use Tanner Scott? What if Shohei Ohtani comes up in the 6th inning? Are you going to go right to Tanner Scott after a starter comes out? Maybe it depends on what the score is. If the Padres have a couple runs lead and Shohei is up, nobody on base, are you going to bring Tanner Scott in? Or are you going to have Morahone come in or have the starter try to get Shohei out with nobody on? A solo homer, okay, you still have the lead. So you want to maybe save Tanner Scott for later in the game. Against the Braves, remember game 2, Mike Shildt was able to go to Tanner Scott early. You just want to get, I was talking about this the other night, reacting to that game 2 win. We'll worry about later. Let's worry about now. Get these outs now. We don't want to be down in a situation and bring Tanner Scott in when we're down. Let's bring Tanner Scott in when we have a lead. Let's go get Matt Olson out, and then we'll worry about it later. If we have to bring in Yuki Matsui later and we have a lead, at least we have a lead and we were able to get through those guys, So that's my thoughts there on Tanner Scott. Jason Adam, I know he gave up that homer, but I'm still confident in him. He's nasty. I love the right-on-right matchup there. I think you could see him if you got a lane where, Mookie's probably, it's Mookie, Shohei, and then Freddie. So he may not get Mookie, or maybe he would pitch to the bottom of the order and then go attack Mookie, and then they bring in someone else for Shohei and Freddie. Oh, no, I think Shohei leads off, right? Yeah, sorry. You wouldn't be dumb to, I don't think Dave Roberts is going to put Mookie leading off and then have back-to-back lefties with Shohei and Freddie. You probably want the righty and Mookie to be in the middle of those guys. So yeah, I think it's Ohtani, Mookie, and Freddie is how they would do that. And then Will Smith is a righty, and then you probably go Muncy or Teoscar maybe. So we'll see. But it's probably going to be a lot of right-left there. But again, what's 2 out of 3 in that lane? And then you go with that matchup there. We'll see. Or maybe you're more scared of a guy. He may be the one righty and you have 2 lefties, but you believe in that arm. Hey, I can get those lefties out. And you go attack that one righty that you really want to be careful of, right? Or lefty, we'll see. But this bullpen, I'm taking the Padres bullpen. I know I'm biased, but I'm taking the Padres bullpen over the Dodgers. Just am. I think, especially with the matchups, the way that Mike Shildt manages this bullpen, I like it over, especially when you have Dave Roberts managing your Dodger bullpen. If you're a Dodger fan, I don't think you're too confident in Dave Roberts. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I'm taking Shildt. And Niebla. I think Niebla is, we got to mention him. That's a strong factor in this as well. Talking about X factors in this series, if we want to go with the lineup for me, I think that Jake Cronenworth is an X factor. I think that Nando is an X factor. Those are two that I'll get to the pitching here in a little bit, but I'm going to go Crony and Nando right now. Obviously, it's the postseason, so everyone is. But with Nando going into Dodger Stadium, he has homers in his history against someone like Walker Buehler, who he may see later in this series. He loves hitting at Dodger Stadium. So those first two games, remember, Nando wasn't there in 2022. In 2020, they weren't at Dodger Stadium. They were in Arlington. So that is an X factor. Nando, he loves playing in those big games, those environments. So I'm looking out for that. We know what he can bring defensively with his arm. So could have a key moment there. And then with Jake, I put out a tweet yesterday. There's people that are concerned about Jake. Bogey as well. Like both of them, they didn't get a hit in that wild card series. But what I would say with Jake is let's remember what happened in 2022. I'm not saying this is going to happen again, but in 2022, he went 0 for 13 in that wild card series against the Mets. Then the division series comes, and he was a different guy. I'll pull up the tweet right now that I put out. He was a different guy. He was arguably their best offensive player in that series. He hit 438 against the Dodgers. He hit a homer, obviously in game 2, insurance run there, in I think the 9th. 5 runs driven in that series. He scored 3 runs. Obviously, game 4, he had that big hit, which he's always going to be a San Diego legend for. So I think we got to remember that. That switch flips for Jake when he's playing the Dodgers, and especially in the postseason, at least based off of 2022. So Jake, he is an X factor. He's going to be near the bottom of the order. I don't know if he's going to be hitting 8th or if they're going to move him up a little bit, but he's going to be hitting bottom half of that order. And maybe you're going to get a Dodgers pitcher looking ahead to someone. If you remember Kyle Higashioka, he's doing well right now. So maybe Jake gets better pitches to hit because they don't want to face Higgy. And then right after Higgy, you've got the top of the order, which obviously you don't want to get to. So that's something that I'm looking at there. Crony, he is an X factor in this series. No doubt about that. I'm not saying the Padres won't win if he isn't able to come up with those clutch moments. And because the Padres, they have other talent in that order. But I could definitely see Jake being in a big spot and coming through. So you can fan however you want to fan, but in no way am I giving up on Jake Cronenworth just because he had a bad 2 games. Let's remember, it was a wild card series. He had a bad 2 games, and I think some fans might be overreacting to 2 bad games. I get it. It's the postseason. Those games, every at-bat, it's magnified. But let's remember what he did against the Dodgers. And let's remember what he did in that last regular season against the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium when there was stuff on the line still for the Padres and the Dodgers because they hadn't clinched the NL West yet at the beginning of that series. He had that double in the gap. I think he homered, right? He homered in that series. So it's recent. It's not like I'm just only leaning on 2022. It's recent. He had a hit down the line. I know this was beginning of the season, feels like years ago, but he did hit off Yamamoto. So let's remember that. Jake, it's that flip turns, that switch flips on. It's different when he's facing the Dodgers. There's something, some guys, they live for that moment. And that could be Jake again. Obviously hoping that's the case in this postseason starting tomorrow in game 1. So those are a couple of X factors that I have on offense. Merrill, I think, could be huge as well against the Dodgers. He lives for these moments. I was glad that he was able to have a big moment in game 2 against the Braves. Now, moving to the pitching side, for me, the X factor or X factors come in the bullpen. And maybe this isn't like me going on a limb or anything, but Tanner Scott and Robert Suarez are my 2 pitching X factors. Tanner Scott, because he's going to go into a game like book it. He is going to go into a game, maybe multiple games in this series where it's a big spot and he is facing Shohei Ohtani, where he is facing Freddie Freeman. He's facing a big lefty. There's runners on base, or there's no one on base, and it's a tie game, and he needs to keep it tied, or down by one, or ahead by one, and it's late in a game, and he needs to come through. He's probably going to go more than 3 outs in some of these games. He is a huge X factor. And then Robert Suarez, because for me, it seems like they're going to be rolling with him in that 9th inning, unless they see that Shohei's coming up in the 9th. Like if Suarez can get through, maybe they give him an extra batter of room, but if he can get through 4 batters and then they've got Shohei at the top of the order coming up that next inning, then they save Tanner Scott maybe, and they don't want Suarez facing Ohtani and Freeman, but we'll see. But it feels like Suarez is the 9th, and they're going to use Adam and Scott and Estrada, Morejon. They're going to use those guys whenever. Like, who cares what inning it is? We care about who's up at the plate. We care about getting the 27 outs. Let's worry about getting out 20 before we get to out 24, So X factors for a little bit different reasons. Suarez, because he's going to have to close out the game, I feel like. And that's obviously, those are the 3 biggest outs when you're in that situation. I mean, we just saw Devin Williams not be able to close it out against the Mets last night in Game 3 of that wild card series. So that is obviously crucial. I know he was able to get the job done in those 2 games against the Braves, but the Dodgers, they are a better team. They do have a better lineup. They are a little bit more healthier than the Braves were. So Suarez is that. Tanner Scott is huge, though, for me. That is a huge X factor. And then Mike Schilt, that's another X factor. Like I said, Dave Roberts was an X factor for the Dodgers. For me, Mike Schilt's the X factor with pinch running situations. It feels like it's going to be longer than 3 games. So there's probably going to be a tie game late. Who are you going to pinch run? Tyler Wade going to go into the game? Is Brandon Lockridge going to come into the game? And who are you taking out? David Peralta may end up having a big at-bat because maybe they go with Tyler Wade or Brandon Lockridge as a pinch runner for, I don't know, a rise. And then David Peralta gets an at-bat later into a game if it goes into extras, or maybe it's someone gets pinch run for in the 7th inning, and then David Peralta ends up getting an at-bat. So there's some different guys that I would keep an eye on here going into this series, but it's just going to be fun. I cannot wait. This is going to be awesome. Padres, Dodgers, and again, just the entire National League, both of these NLDSs, Phillies, Mets, Padres, Dodgers. This is what everyone wanted. Padres, specifically Padres, Dodgers. That's what everyone wanted. And, what everyone wants really is like Freddie Freeman to be fully healthy. You probably wanted some of the other Dodgers arms to be healthy, but this is, in terms of the matchup, the 2 teams, 2 fan bases, this is what we want. So can't wait. I did want to get to, by the way, the Teoscar Hernandez comment that he had. He was saying this to Jack Harris. I guess he was speaking to the media of the LA Times, and this was yesterday. He said, I wanted San Diego just because of the adrenaline and the intensity, just the history of these 2 teams. I think this is the best scenario for us, and not only us, but the whole baseball world. Now, I agree with this and partly disagree. Teoscar Hernandez saying this is the best scenario for the baseball world. Yeah. Like I said, yeah, and I agree with Manny, what he said to Buster Olney after winning Game 2. This is what everyone wanted. Yes, for the baseball world, yes. I will agree with him on the adrenaline, the intensity. Okay, yes. But at the same time, it's a playoff series. You're telling me the Dodgers won't have the adrenaline and the intensity if they were facing the Braves? I don't know about that. Come on. It's playoff baseball. If you're not going to get up for playoff baseball, regardless of the opponent, then you should not be playing. Like, come on. What I will disagree with Teoscar Hernandez about, them wanting San Diego, him thinking this is the best scenario for the Dodgers, you're telling me that you would rather have the Padres over the Atlanta Braves, and an Atlanta Braves team that doesn't have Spencer Strider, Austin Riley, Ronald Acuna Jr., Max Fried didn't pitch great against the Padres in game 2. You're telling me you would rather have a Padres team with the weapons that we have, with the bullpen depth we have, with the rotation arms, with King and Cease and Darvish and the lineup, and how we've been able to play against the Dodgers this season, and how there's no give up in this Padres team, and then you having to go into Petco Park in that environment, you're telling me that you would rather have the Padres over the Braves. I think you might be fibbing a little bit there. You might be lying a little bit there, Teoscar. I understand someone that was on that Dodger team in 2022, like, we want revenge, we're motivated. Okay. But based on the matchup, you're telling me that you want the Padres over the Braves? Yeah, come on. Really? I'm not so sure about that. But the other points that he makes here, yeah, that's fair. About the baseball world, best scenario for the baseball world, the intensity, the adrenaline, the rivalry. Yeah, okay. Yep. It's going to be fun baseball. I think that was part of his point. But yeah, that was an interesting quote that I saw yesterday. Credit to Jack Harris in the LA Times for that. But yeah, give me your thoughts. What do you think on that? Do you think that the Dodgers actually want the Padres when they were sitting there watching this wild card series? Were they really like, man, I want the Padres? When they saw Manny bring in a couple of runs there with that ball down the line against Max Fried, when they saw Tatis hit that homer, when they saw Jackson Merrill hit that ball off the wall, when they saw Manny make that play to end game 1, they want the Padres? That environment at Petco, they were saying, oh yeah, bring it on. Or were they hoping that Jason Adam and the rest of the Padres bullpen wasn't going to be able to pull it together, and there was going to be a game 3, which ended up not happening, but I don't know. Now, maybe some would say, well, Ben, if you're going to shy away from the matchup, you shouldn't be in it. Okay, that's fair. But I'm just thinking about the matchup. You really wanted the Padres? All right, you're going to get the Padres. Have fun with that. We'll see what happens, but I'm pumped up. If I missed anything, if you have any questions about the matchups, other X factors that you have, feel free to put that in the comments on YouTube or tag me on social media. But yeah, Padres Dodgers coming up. Main sponsor of the show, by the way, I did want to shout them out. Gagliano and Bros famous cheesesteaks and garlic fries. If you're going to be there for game 3, game 4, if it gets to game 4, which I assume it's going to, they're going to be down the third baseline at Petco Park. They've got cheesesteaks, garlic fries, cheesesteak fries. They're the best. So check them out. Their main location also is on Friars Road. Breaking Tea, they've got Padres and Aztec shirts and sweatshirts. They just released a Higgy Bank shirt. I'm wearing the El Nino Fernando Tatis Jr. shirt. They've got a lot of stuff there. So feel free to check them out. Underdog, 50% deposit match up to $1,000. Code Talking Friars. Click that link in the description. There will be pick'ems for this Padres Dodgers series and all the other postseason series. So feel free to use that to your advantage there with Underdog. And then same code, Talking Friars. This is with SeatGeek, $20 off your first order. It seems like pretty much everything is sold out at Petco Park except the suites. Now, resale on SeatGeek, that might not be the case, and you may be able to get some tickets there. So you can go check out SeatGeek for that. I just want to point this out. Those are resale tickets. That is not actually through the Padres. Through the Padres, that would be Ticketmaster. So just, I don't want, someone to be disappointed if someone gets scammed or something like that. All right. That's it. Talking Friars episode 643. Hopefully everybody enjoyed this preview. Hopefully I was able to give you some information that you didn't really know about going into this series. And again, if I missed anything, feel free to let me know. And I'll talk to you all tomorrow. Padres Dodgers game 1 tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night. Can't wait.